Hey everyone, it's Mr. Canfield. Today we're going to do an activity 2-2, programming with procedures. I'm not with you in person, but I can be with you in video. So let's go through this, and I'll try to take it kind of quickly, but at the same time give you plenty of opportunities to try things on your own and pause it. If you get confused at any point, feel free to pause it or ask somebody else. So, goals. Break a complex let me hide my dashboard. Break a complex task into a sequence of small steps. Analyze a program and reduce redundant lines of code. So last time when we were highlight code. Last time when we were looking at our bus and giving it directions, it was possible to use things like move forward, move forward, move forward, move forward a whole bunch of times. And we're trying to make the computer do less of that. We're trying to give it repetitive tasks to do without us having to be the one that gives it the directions. So I'm going to download, well, I don't need to download any of this yet, do I? We just follow the directions. For me, they always confuse me a little bit because they have all this stuff at the beginning and you can really just avoid it and start here. So the charades game. Have you ever played charades with your friends or family? Yes, I'm going to read this to you. In the game, players have to silently act out a word or phrase while their teammates try to successfully guess the word or phrase. In this activity, you will begin to develop your very own charades game app! Exclamation point. Highlight. Oh, it didn't highlight it. You will work to analyze the code that has been pre-built for you in the app and then work to reduce any redundant lines of code. That word redundant. If you don't know what that word means, the word redundant means unnecessary and like extra. So we would say like a redundant is something that you don't need is something that you don't need. Redundancies show up in a lot of different places. In safety things, we use redundant things so that if one thing breaks, then the other thing is there to catch it. But in code, we don't generally like to use redundant things. So if you have something that turns a light on, you don't want to have another bit of code later that says, hey, turn that light on, because the light's already on. That sort of thing. So let's look at the requirements. This is a really helpful way for us to know if our program is working or not. It's a series of instructions, and we're supposed to have all these things happen. So let's see. The first one says start game. One thing that has to happen is the actor starts game by touching the word or phrase button. So that's the start of the game. That's how the game begins. Word or phrase appears in the middle of the screen. Okay, so it's telling us how it functions. Playing the game. When the actor is ready to act out the displayed word or phrase, he or she touches the start timer button to begin the 30-second countdown. Oh, 30-second countdown. Okay. Interesting. Well, we've seen that before, like in Germ Fighter. Actor silently acts out the displayed word or phrase, and the actor's teammates try to correctly guess the word or phrase before the time is up and the timer buzzes. If teammates correctly guess the word or phrase before the time is up, the actor shakes the device one time to indicate a correct guess. So we're going to have a way to shake it. When you're using your phone, you actually can shake the phone. But I think it works a little bit differently in the emulator. Advancing to a new word or phrase. Game displays a new word or phrase whenever a correct guess is indicated. So when it's shaken, we get a new word or phrase. Game displays a new word or phrase whenever the time is up. Game displays a new word or phrase if the actor touches the skip button. And they're saying actor, meaning the person doing the charades. Whenever the game advances to a new word, the timer is reset to 30 seconds. 1 point is added to the score for every correct guess when the device is shaken. 1 point is deducted from the score every time the timer runs out of time without the players correctly guessing the word or phrase, and 1 point is deducted from the score for every skipped word or phrase. Resetting the game. There's a reset button, I'm guessing. The score, timer, and word displayed can be reset when the game is over. So there's so much stuff going on here. And when we make a program, it's a lot of things that are kind of related, but also not. So we want to focus on one area and try to complete that and then move on to our next area often when we're making something. And my phone is on, I'm sorry. I'm waiting for texts from my wife. Decomposing the problem. Okay, so what we're going to do is look and see what's supposed to happen with each of these things. And this is something you're going to write in your notebook. So use this up here and stop the video for a couple of minutes in your notebook. And you might have to go pick up your notebook if you don't have it with you. This is part of the stuff you're going to be turning in today. So when word phrase button is clicked, what's going to happen? When start timer button is clicked, what's going to happen? And try to write it shorter than it is up here. Try to write just a couple of words or a sentence or two about what's supposed to happen. You're summarizing. And try to make sure you get everything that happens. So pause the video, take a few minutes and do that. You can work with your partner, and then come back when you're ready. Welcome back. No, okay, so here we go. So I'm going to load up the code. I've already done this. I'm not going to go over the... Ooh, that was really loud. I'm sorry. All right, let's try to avoid that. Before I started the video, I was like, should I mute the sound? No, I don't need to mute the sound. I muted the sound. All right, so we're going to open up App Inventor, and we will import our project. I just downloaded it, so I'll just go to recent over here. If I'm on my Chromebook, I am not on my Chromebook. And so because of that, I'm not going to be able to show everything, but I'm going to be able to show enough. Believe it or not, I have already done this activity. Okay, so looks a little messy. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Click here for word or phrase. Interesting, interesting. We've got some blocks going on. Whoa, that's a lot of stuff. Okay, so let's see what the activity suggests we do next. So I loaded up App Inventor, loaded up the activity. In Designer View and Blocks View, look at all the components of the app that have been pre-built. Okay, so I want to see how many screens do I have? Just the one screen. Okay. So we've got a vertical arrangement, horizontal arrangement. If you don't quite get what those are for, they're just for keeping things in a nice orderly spacing on the screen. So the arrangements help us from just having a list of stuff over on the side. Word phrase button, score label. Okay, so score label is probably number of correct. Where do I see that? Oh, number of correct guesses. Yep, there it is. Okay, let's see. Time left label. Okay, okay. So we have a bunch of different things. We have a clock one and a player down here. So this is for what? Yeah, it's for sound. Oh, yep, there's our sound. Okay. And the clock. Okay, that's been pulled in from over here. And the media, right? Is that right? No, not media. Sensor. It's been a while. Yeah, clock. Okay. So we go check out blocks. So initialize global score to 0. Okay, so we have a variable called score we're going to keep track of, and we have a variable called time left we're going to keep track of. Okay, so I see that shows up in a few different things. Okay, so when start timer button is clicked, start timer, where is that? Start timer. Okay, /n. That looks like a typo. All right, well, I'll come back to that. So start timer, looks like we set our time left to 30 and turn on the clock. Okay. When reset timer is clicked, looks like we set the timer to 30 and turn the clock off, and we have the timer say time left. Okay. When the reset game button is clicked, set the score to 0, set the time. Wait, what? We have score, we have the time. We have two different ways to reset the time. Interesting. When the skip button is clicked, we subtract 1 from our score. Okay. Weird. I don't see a way that we add our score yet. I see, here's score. Here's global score, here's global score, here's global score. I only see subtracting, so we'll have to, they're going to maybe have us add in how we get points. Something worth noting, just in case it hasn't made sense to you, this block, if I just have the set global score, get global score -1, if I just have this, what this does is, in its brain, the computer is going, okay, what's score? Well, it's whatever it used to be, and then take 1 away from it. Okay, cool. It doesn't tell you though, it just knows it. So that's what this is for. Set score label, this is saying, now the place that we're displaying the score to our user, show that to be the correct number that it currently is. If we don't have it update that, then it'll just leave the old number. That's like you saying, hey, think of a number, and the person says, okay. That's what this is. You go, no, what number are you thinking of? Oh, I'm thinking of this number. So without that, it doesn't tell us what it's thinking of. So we got that. Looks like if global time left equals 0, it looks like it has a, oh, it calls a procedure. Okay. It calls the purple procedure player start. I don't see that anywhere. Huh. Maybe it's going to have us make it. Okay, well, let's go back to the lesson. Let's see. So I think I've done a fair amount of exploring. Which buttons do you expect to do something when you start the app? What behavior do you expect these buttons to do? Why was time left variable created for the timer? Why does the timer always start counting down from 30? When the timer reaches 0, why does it stop counting down? And why does the score decrement or decrease by 1? So these, every single one of these that I read, I was like, ooh, 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 and I was thinking back to here. These are all explained up here. So this is the next thing you'll write in your notebook. So you can stop here and go and in your notebook have a 5 and then answer A through E. And then come back. And here we go. Deploying the app. Connect and deploy the app to your emulator or mobile device. So this, you're not going to be able to see me do this right now, unfortunately. But you are going to hear me drop things on the floor randomly. So let's see, touch the buttons of the UI of the app. Do they do what you expected them to do? So if I go into my designer, some of these do what they're supposed to, and some of these don't. So what's the deal? We don't have to figure it out yet, just which ones worked and which ones didn't work. So review the game description and the event handler chart you filled at the beginning of the activity. So let's go back up here and let's see which things actually happen. And so you could literally take a screenshot of this and check them off if you want, or you can just kind of take note. There's 2 things here, 3 things here, 4 things here, 3, 1. You can kind of see what works. And let's see, here we are. Okay. Carefully inspect all the blocks of the code for this app. Identify any places of the code where the lines are redundant or repeated, duplicated or replicated code within a program. Think back to what you learned about keeping me in the loop. How can you reduce this redundancy and streamline your code? Well, procedures. We're going to talk about that. So we're going to create a reset timer procedure for our redundant code. So anytime we need to reset the timer, it's going to be a really easy thing to do. So check it out. We go into blocks, and you might have heard me mention it a minute ago, this purple thing is a procedure. Over here on the left, we can click this, to procedure, and we're going to name this. We're going to name it the way that they named it, reset timer. So we'll use camel case just like they did. Reset timer. So there we go. We have that. And now what I can do is anytime I go into procedures, I can actually pull out this reset timer, and I can put this anywhere. Didn't want to do that. I could like pull this over here, reset game button, and just drag it in there. And when I click reset game button, it'll go, oh, purple reset timer, and it'll go into here and do whatever's in here. So right now there's nothing in here. So it'll go and do it, but there's nothing to do. So let's see what this says next. Drag out a to procedure, change it to reset timer, drag the repeated blocks. Okay, so resetting the timer. What stuff has to happen to reset the timer? Excuse me. Oh wait, look. When we reset timer button, all these things happen. So could I just do this? This is my reset timer procedure. Okay. But what happens when I click reset timer now? Nothing. So what I can do is I can take this, I just want the reset timer guy. Hey, don't, I've not had that problem before where it's dragging the whole thing around. I can drag that in there. So now when I click reset timer button, it's going to do the code that used to be in there, but now it's just this. And you might be like, well, what's the point in that? That added code. The reason why that's good is now over here where I have global time, like I have the same blocks of code, I can take that and delete it. I want to delete all of that. I want to just drag the trash can. And now I can drag this reset timer. There we go. So it cleans up the reset game button a little bit. And this might not feel like it's the most useful. I certainly don't feel like this is a very useful time to do that. I promise you, when you get to bigger programs, procedures like this are so helpful. Instead of having to put in 85 lines that say all these different things, you just say, oh, do the thingy thing, and then boom, done. Okay. So, I already talked about camel case. I'm ahead of the game. So see what happens now. Test it and see if it works. If it doesn't work, and you followed me exactly, then we made a mistake together. If it does work and you followed me exactly, awesome. And if it doesn't work, make sure that you get help to figure it out. And if you can't figure out that piece right now, that's okay. We can still do the rest of the activity. Create a procedure for the other redundant lines of code. Name the procedure appropriately using camel case. Remember to choose a name that describes what the procedure does. Test the updated behavior to fix any errors. Okay, so I noticed that score gets talked about a little bit, and I don't see this repeated anywhere where the score gets set to 0, but I do see set global time, no, time left. That's decreasing our time, so that's not it. I see set global score, get global score -1. I see these two lines of code. It's identical there. So why don't I turn that into a procedure? And then this is also like, if in a little bit later, if I want to use this again, I don't have to redo all that code. I can just, well, what is this? This sets global score to the current score -1. Well, it sounds like losing a point, and then we show it. So I'm going to call this lose a point using camel case. You can call it whatever you want. You could say decrement score if you want to be technical about it, but I like having fun names that are still descriptive. So that this came from over here. So I'm going to bring in lose a point, which is what I called it. I'm going to bring lose a point over here. If your time ever gets to 0, then we still don't know what call player start is, but we say set clock to false, we're stopping the clock, and we're losing a point. Okay. I think there might be a little bit more we have to do there. Let's see. But I also see lose a point was here, so let me, I guess I want to delete those blocks. And put lose a point in there. So I'm doing a fair amount of this for you, but I hope that it's helpful to see. I am glad that I just read that. Okay. Let me back up just a couple steps. So all we've really focused on so far has been resetting the timer and losing points. So we should be able to reset the timer and lose points. But as far as the actual game goes, I don't think we have any code in here to have a list of words that we pull from or anything like that yet. So you're not doing anything wrong if you don't see that just yet. Let's see, so I'm just organizing here. I'm putting all my clicked buttons together. You can organize it however you want. And then while the timer's running, we have that. Okay, I kind of like this organization better. Okay. So what I'm doing right now, oh no, misclick. No, go back. What I'm doing right now is I'm looking at individual pieces of the code. If you've deployed this, and I could deploy it to my phone and check it out, it doesn't work yet, but certain pieces of it do work. And that's what we do. When we make a program, we make pieces of it. We don't make the whole thing all at once. So in your notebook, here's our next part. Create a list of at least 10 words or phrases you want to add to your charades app. You can make more if you want, but at least 10. Think of words or phrases that would be fun to act out. Words or phrases that can include popular movies, TV shows, songs, famous people, and actions. Make sure that the words or phrases you pick are appropriate and not offensive or insensitive to others. You will be turning this in. If you turn in something inappropriate, it's going straight to the administrator. And I don't know, is it going to turn into detention? It's going to turn into something bad for you. You don't want to do that. So silly is fine. Inappropriate is not fine. And you're old enough to know what that means. So we're going to write our list in our notebook, and we're going to use that. So take some time, and if you and your partner are doing it together, then take some time, come up with at least 10 words. But the more the merrier. The more you have, the more fun this will be in the end. But you start with at least 10. You'll always be able to add more in the future. And that is it. So just in case I didn't spell this out for you very much or very well, this procedure, this lose a point, reset timer, oh, you can double click on it too, and then it goes away. So now they're kind of hiding up here, and that's what those little breaks are for. You double click on them and it shows you all the code that's hiding in them. So this is a great, great way to reduce clutter in programs. Oh, and I will say this too. If you're trying to get a really good answer to this, every digital device that we've ever used, your Chromebook, your phone, your smartwatch, your computer at home, they all have a certain amount of space, of memory. And the more text, the more lines of code that there are in a program, the more space it takes up, the more memory it uses. And those are all finite resources. We don't have infinity of them. We have only a certain amount of them. And so the more we can streamline and use less and less and less, this is where procedural generation, if any of you know that from the video game world, it takes less space on the computer to do a really big task. So that's kind of the point of these procedures. So I believe that's the end of this lesson, and then you can move on to 2.3 after this. But make sure that your button, let's see, things that have to happen. Reset timer has to work right. Skip has to work right. You shouldn't see any words or phrases here yet, but number of correct guesses, that should flash to 0, and you're not going to see word or phrase to act out. You're not going to see that either. So start timer, stop, reset timer, that should work. Reset game should work, at least to a degree. I think when we click reset, no, where's the player start? When your timer hits 0, there's some stuff that we haven't defined yet, so it'll break there. But there are some things that should work. So I hope this was helpful, and there should be another one for your next lesson when you get there. Bye.